Do I look cute enough? Am I slaying? Is this what we're giving? Am I giving? I don't know. There is something beautiful about The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. A love story that's doomed to fail. And I think this musical really captures that and presents it in a way that makes this quite magical story feel really grounded and human. But why exactly did I love The Curious Case of Benjamin Button? Let's find out. But if you haven't seen my face before, hi, I'm Ellie. I talk about theatre. I do reviews, I do discussions, I do video essays, and if any of that sounds interesting to you, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It really helps me out, it helps out the channel. And also, if you love me and hate having money, just consider supporting the channel through channel memberships. I'm so unserious whenever I advertise these, and you know what? That's all the advertising we're doing. You can look into it if you want to. But let's talk about Benjamin Button. So, this musical is an adaptation of the classic tale of Benjamin Button. This was originally written by J. Scott Fitzgerald, who is most commonly known for being the author of The Great Gatsby. And the basic gist of this tale is that it is about a boy who is born as an old man and ages backwards. This musical version of this tale has decided to move it to Cornwall, giving this seaside fisherman aesthetic to a lot of the show, especially within the design elements of the staging. Now, when I first heard of the Benjamin Button musical, I was a little bit worried. It seems like a very odd tale to try and adapt into a musical, but this musical has such a clear focus on its themes that it just hits you right in your heart. At the centre of it, the Benjamin Button musical is about love, time, and making the most of it. Things don't last. People leave. And using the idea of this backwards aging to portray this relationship that we all know is eventually going to fall apart is a very clever idea. This musical reminded me a lot of Amelie, and that's a very good thing. But if you loved Amelie, a lot of the elements of what worked in that are here. The folksy music, the quirky side characters, the love story at its centre, even little things like the narration, the use of time, the opening number. I could draw direct parallels from the opening number in Amelie, but with its own main focus and the changing of the setting of the tale, it still reminds me of Amelie, but feels like it has its own identity as well. I'm really surprised at how well this musical does at grounding and humanizing this very weird story. Because this concept is weird. A man who is born as an old man and ages backwards. It could be very camp and silly, but this musical treats it very seriously. There's the odd joke about it, and it kind of glosses over how it's even possible, but it just goes with it. And the very realistic reactions to everyone around Benjamin Button allows for this to really work. And as the story unfolds with the love and how in the back of your mind, because you know this story, because you know the basic conceit and you know what is eventually going to happen to Benjamin as he ages down throughout his life, that you know whatever love he has, it's not going to last. Personally, I loved this story. What they did to it really worked. And by the end, as you see the relationship get closer and closer to its inevitable conclusion, it really does hit you emotionally. And thanks to the great chemistry of Jamie Parker and Molly Osborne, this relationship is strengthened on stage, and so when it starts to break, it's even more heartbreaking. This show uses a very folksy score, and because of this, it has its very own unique musical theatre sound. And what's more, the use of the acting musicians throughout this show makes this even more prominent throughout the story. And this decision is implemented really well for the staging, having the ensemble mostly focus on the instruments and the playing of the music while picking up all of the minor roles in the show. I'm just like, we are really winning with new British musicals at the moment. and new British musicals that just have such fantastic scores. There's so many melodies in this show that really stood out to me. It's such a great blend of ballads and some really boppy music. One of my favourite motifs throughout the show is the Matter of Time motif, which kind of pops up whenever a big shifting event is about to happen. Or, as I wrote down in my notes, it pops up every time shit's about to hit the fan. I have to say, massive props to this cast. They make the balance between playing all of these quirky and complicated roles while also playing all their various instruments look easy, even though this is such a tough balance to hit. Something that really stood out for me as well was a lot of the design elements of the show. As previously mentioned, they've moved the story to Cornwall. Now, admittedly, all the things I know about Cornwall come from Fisherman's Friends, which I only saw like a couple of weeks ago. If I had a penny for every time I've seen a musical set in Cornwall in the past month, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. The music and, in turn, the design of this show, which I also really appreciated, was very much inspired by nature. Time is a force of nature that will keep going no matter how much we want it to stop. Just as we know how inevitable it is that this relationship is not going to last for this musical. This really interested me in the composer's note, actually. It must have been a huge temptation when creating this program to include lots of clocks in the artwork. Indeed, you can see from this particular page that the temptation was too strong to resist. The music of Benjamin Button, however, was not inspired by the mechanical rigging of clocks or any other man-made device for measuring time. When Jeffro had the inspired idea to transplant the tale of Benjamin Button, a man born old who ages backwards, into his native Cornwall, I was first drawn to the elemental nature of the place, a land filled with sea and storm. I was reminded that we have not always kept time by the ticking of clocks. We've used the seasons, we've used the moon and the sun, and we've used the coming and going of the tide. That idea was the main inspiration behind the music of the story. And while here he's talking a lot about the music of the show, I saw a lot of this influence in the design of the show. The wooden boards, the netting that reminded you of fishing and the sea, the floorboards and the trapdoors in the floor that would open up to water or sand. There's a lot of nature baked into the design of this show, and it is beautiful to watch. Especially in this new Southwark Playhouse Elephant, where they can really play around with this. They have a bigger space. And honestly, I'm really excited to see more things take on this space. It's a lovely venue that I feel like could really be another stepping stone between off West End to West End. And before I wrap up on talking about the design, can I just say how beautiful these costumes are? Oh my god. Like, the ensemble costumes, I want all of them. Where's the photo in the programme? Because honestly, it is stunning. Look at these. Look at these. The colours, the yellows and the greens together, like the rustic kind of style of it. The blues, the greens, like these colours work so well together, and it reminds you immediately of that kind of seaside town. There's a lot of really fun ideas within the staging of this show as well. There's a lot of great imagery, especially in the moment where Benjamin Button is born. We see a quick shift before our eyes of Benjamin almost being puppeted by the fellow ensemble members, holding up the different elements of the costume before they all crowd around and suddenly Jamie Parker is there in the same costume. This imagery throughout makes this such a visually interesting show, as well as the previously mentioned blend of actor-musician, which is blended into the choreography and the staging of the show magnificently. There's a common theme that I'm going to be mentioning throughout a lot of my discussion with these characters and the performances of the actors, and it's how, with the shifting time and the way that the show works, with these actors portraying these characters and how they grow and change over time really effectively. This show uses a lot of like blind age casting. Instead of having like multiple actors playing Benjamin Button, we just have one, Jamie Parker, who is the actor who I think sells the changing the most. His physicality and his voice when he's playing the older Benjamin Button is spot on. The subtle shakiness, the old man voice, a little bit of strain behind it. And then this slowly starts to change as he grows younger and younger and younger. Jamie really effectively plays every single age to a point where you just completely forget how old the actor is and completely believe him no matter what point in Benjamin's life he's playing. That is a mark of a fantastic actor. Molly Osborne plays Elowen. She is the main love interest in the show, and she kind of comes and goes in terms of the plot. Every time we see her, she's a little bit older. You can tell in Molly's portrayal about how this time away really affects her. And again, just like Jamie Parker, she really portrays all the different ages incredibly well. From the energetic youngster to the eventual time where we see her as old as we first saw Benjamin Button. I want to give a quick mention to a couple of our ensemble cast members. Obviously all of the ensemble pick up different roles, but these are just a couple of the ones that I thought really stood out. First off, Anna Fordham, who plays Lochran. Lochran is the son of Benjamin Button and Elowen. There's two key points where we see him, which is when he's really young and then eventually when he's a bit older. And it's the performance when he's a little bit older that really stood out to me. Trying to avoid details as not to spoil this, because I'm trying to tell you to go and see the show because it's incredible, come on now. But the anger, the heartbreak, these various mixed emotions that Lochran feels in that moment are portrayed so well by Fordham. Talking of moments of pain, Jack Quarton, who plays Little Jack, gets a similar moment, which is just utterly heartbreaking to see. And then I also wanted to talk about Benjamin Salter, who plays the dad of Benjamin Button, Roger Button. He's a very tough character to play because it's very easy to fall into the trap of just presenting this guy as awful. And a lot of this character's actions are awful. And I felt like Salter's portrayal of this character really showed the humanity underneath an incredibly tough character portrayed very, very well. And just as a general thing, I just need to applaud this entire ensemble. Every single person in this cast multi-roles. Every single person in this cast plays some type of instrument. Everyone has their key moments and funny bits. There is not a weak link within this cast. They are so unbelievably tight-knit in telling this story that it is so effective. We are in an era of great new British musicals. Operation Mincemeat, Ride, My Sons Are Queer, and now Benjamin Button. This beautifully tragic tale just touches you right in the heart and explores its themes of love, home, and loss with incredible intelligence and care. You need to go and see this musical because I think that Benjamin Button has the potential to be big. It's only a matter of time. But what do you think? Have you seen the Benjamin Button musical? Are you intrigued by it? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments down below. If you did enjoy this video, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It really helps me and it helps out the channel. Here's some links to my other videos on screen right now and a link to my Instagram if you want to drop me a follow over there. But that's it for me today and I hope to see you next time. Bye!